Hey, welcome to another episode of Badges to Briefcases. I'm your host, Brandon Gans, and today we have a very special episode for you. Today on the show, we have a new attorney with her law firm. She was also a law enforcement officer, just like Ian and myself. The wonderful, the intelligent, the magnificent attorney Danielle Padilla. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here.
Yeah.
And so now we have also attorney Ian Wise.
Good morning, everybody.
And now the three of us on Badges to Briefcases, and that's what kind of ties us all together. We're all criminal defense attorneys that have a background in law enforcement. So just tell us a little bit about yourself. What do the people need to know? Why did you get into law enforcement and now criminal defense?
What do the people need to know? Okay. Well, practicing criminal defense, former police officer, out in Osceola County for Kissimmee Police Department specifically. Many years I served. I'm proud of the work that I did. But I think that my journey there only further showed me that justice wasn't really justice. And for me to impact the justice system to the caliber that I wanted to, it was going to take me to go deeper. And that triggered me to go back to law school. And everyone asked me, did you know you were going to automatically go defense? 100%. I knew. I think at the end of the day, we all have rights. Those rights are in the Constitution. And it's up to us as defense attorneys to protect other people's rights. And that's what I wanted to stand for. And that is what moved me and pushed me through law school. And now I'm here.
That's wonderful. And I've known you for a while, and you always have a sense of purpose and a cause behind it, which is, I think, why you're such a great attorney.
Thank you.
But it is interesting because you were in law enforcement for, what, 5 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was in law enforcement for 5 years. 4 out of the 5 years, full-blown patrol nights. I mean, I saw it all. I really tried to hone in on very high felony crime investigations. And so I learned a lot in that process that I think serves me well today as a defense attorney.
Yeah. What made you make the switch from law enforcement to defense attorney?
I think that for me, I saw that the justice system wasn't swinging the way that you would think it would. And so I was seeing a lot of injustice in the sense of smaller crimes were coming out with bigger penalties, and the things that really needed to be, controlled were not being controlled by the system. And so I felt as if the system was not working in the way that it should or the way that we want it to. And so I said, I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. And so how can I be part of that solution? And it was through criminal defense. So I had to pivot.
Yeah. We all have to pivot sometime.
Yeah.
Do you think that having that law enforcement background has helped you now that you're a criminal defense attorney?
100%. Because, as former law enforcement, you guys know, we did the investigations. We wrote the police reports. We know what are the critical steps in the investigation, and we know collection of evidence, right? Preservation of evidence. All of those things count. And one little mistake on the defense side makes a huge difference. So we have almost a trained eye that most defense attorneys don't have. They haven't done these investigations. There's been plenty of times I've done cross-examination on trial and asked certain things to officers on the stand, and other defense attorneys have said to me, how did you know to ask that? And when I say, well, I was prior law enforcement, they're like, makes sense. That's a different type of training that other lawyers don't get.
Yeah, excellent. You know what to look for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you see things that might be missing or wrong that other people may not see. And Ian, you've probably seen that as well.
Yeah, every single case, it's especially if you get to the point where you're training officers.
Yeah.
You learn how to tell them how to do it, and you really get to see what they're missing now that we're attorneys.
Yeah. And it's so much fun now that Danielle, that you're on the team, to be able to work with you, pick your brain about things, and to get a new set of eyes on our cases. It's just awesome. I think we're a great team. So Danielle, Ian, Brandon, Dibs, D-I-B.
Dibs.
And it was a little slogan.
I call dibs.
Yeah, I call Dibs.
Dibs.
So if you need a good attorney, call Dibs. You gotta call Dibs. I love it too. All right, guys. Okay, so we're in the month of February. It's Valentine's Day month, right? So love is in the air, or maybe it's not. Maybe other things are flying through the air. So today we're going to talk about a topic, which is actually our second highest case type, and that's going to be domestic violence. Okay? There's a wide range of cases when it comes to domestic violence, from pretty serious domestic violence situations to the downright kind of ridiculous. And there's a whole spectrum. And so we want to talk about that since it is Valentine's Day month, and just kind of talk about when people fall out of love, maybe. And these are real situations, and we have the goal on the podcast just to give people our opinions so that they're informed, they can make their own decisions and act accordingly. So,
Yes.
so in the situations where, again, it can be very serious, I think a lot of people don't realize we actually represent victims as well. So we do both sides. If it's a serious case and someone is the victim of legitimate domestic violence, we can help that person. They have rights too, just like you just talked about a defendant's right. Everyone's got rights. And so we can help those victims navigate the criminal justice system and to, make sure their rights are protected as well. And for those situations where someone is wrongfully accused, needs to tell their side of the story, or maybe it's just on the more ridiculous end of the scale of domestic violence, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We can help those people too, because I think sometimes we want to paint a better picture. And I know, Danielle, you're very articulate and very good at painting a very good picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that a big thing about defense work, and we've talked about this before, is storytelling, right? It's all about, can you, especially when you're in trial, can you paint the clear picture, the story to the jury for them to be able to connect the dots? They're not trained like we're trained. They don't understand the law to the extent we do. So it's up to us to paint that picture and tell the story in a way that's moving, compelling, and in a way that, most importantly, they can connect the dots to get to the right decision in the end.
Right, because a prosecutor has only got one side of the story, and so you've got to tell them the other side as well. Absolutely. Yeah. And then, Ian, from your experience as an officer, what would you say is some of the most common experiences you've seen that led to domestic violence, so people know what to look for?
Well, the difficult thing there is everyday life is what leads up to these incidents. Like you mentioned, there are serious cases and some absurd cases, but the problem is the law doesn't differentiate. And even though Florida is one of the few states that does not mandate an arrest in domestic violence situations, almost every agency has a policy that does. So if there is any type of argument and anyone calls the police and anyone touched anyone in any manner, according to the law, that's domestic violence, and they're going to get arrested.
Right. So have you seen cases too, and I'll just open up the floor to both of you, that you've seen like maybe just simple arguments, stresses, frustrations between family members that have led or escalated to domestic violence?
More than I can count.
Yeah.
I could write a novel or 5.
I'm sure you both have seen quite a bit. So in the courtrooms, like what type of evidence would attorneys be looking for in like domestic violence cases?
I think it's importantly, number one, that when you have, an alleged victim alleging violence, especially physical violence, so what kind of evidence do we have to show that that really occurred, right? Because one thing is to give a statement. Another thing is to have supporting pictures of these injuries, So one thing is to allege. Another thing is to have the proof that it happened. So I think pictures can be very telling. Video, because sometimes you never know. It was this right outside of the home. We have Ring doorbell camera, that we can kind of see more accurately what really happened. Because one thing is receiving a statement. Another thing is, can they connect the dots with concrete evidence that that's how it really played out? So
yeah, and then you have the issue of statements. Unlike most cases, everyone here knows everybody. There's family drama, there's family history. And we talk about biased witness in a lot of other cases where they have a reason to testify one way or the other. Well, that's exactly the case here. You have a mom who doesn't like her daughter's boyfriend. She is going to slant her story in a way that makes that boyfriend look bad. Just like the other way around. If there is a custody battle or if they're going through a divorce, everyone on her side is going to be telling something different from his side. Everyone on his side, you get the idea. It's wireless. Yeah,
daily.
It's terrible.
What people and even prosecutors don't realize, like, hey, have you looked into, is there an injunction case? Is there a dissolution of marriage case going on? There's usually a lot more to the story, right?
Absolutely. And then what I always say that's very unique about domestic situations is one thing is always going to be true. And the one thing is people are making permanent decisions on temporary feelings. The emotions are high, they know each other. This is not just one isolated incident. There may be histories, like you said, a divorce or some type of trouble with co-parenting and they're trying to transition, whatever the case may be. It's involving a lot of emotions. And unfortunately, people tend to make heavy decisions off of those temporary emotions. But once the police arrive, they take action, the ball gets rolling in the system, and you can't just back out just like that. I think that a lot of people think I can just, call back, 2 days later, say, I don't want to participate no more, never mind. Not with domestic.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Well, we do have victims who do decline to prosecute or decline to cooperate. And a lot of times the state will realize they don't have a case anymore. But this is one of those few crimes where you don't need the victim.
Correct.
The state can press forward. If there's injuries and they have video, they don't need that victim. And they sometimes will.
Yeah.
And that's something that really differentiates this from other crimes.
Yeah, if there's a history of domestic violence, if the facts are bad, if it's insincere recantation. I mean, there's so many things that play into it. And I remember when I was a prosecutor, I did tons of battery trial domestic violence and almost always came back guilty, even when the victim recanted. So you just have to really look at, I think a lot of people think, she's going to drop the charges. It's not a problem. Well, it's not really up to him or her. It's up to the state. And I think what you guys just point on is spot on. And that's something that I think if you don't take anything else away from this, just know that it's not up to the victim in this kind of crime. It's up to the prosecutor. And so we want to get involved early, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So talking about early intervention as like attorneys, what can we do early on in the case? If someone contacts us, right after it happens, is that like an advantage? Would that help in the defense? Maybe we can talk to the prosecutor.
For every case, but especially these cases, with the feelings, the ebbs and the flows of the feelings and emotions that come with these types of incidents, alleged victims are going to change how they feel and their stances quickly and erratically. And having an attorney quickly can get that information to the prosecutor fast. Whereas if you give them time to think, they might change their mind, and that could change the entire direction of the case.
100%.
Agree.
Yeah. So let's move on to the segment where I want to talk more about domestic violence, really what people need to know. Again, this is for last year, it was our second highest offense that we represented people on. The only thing higher than that was DUI. It was DUI and then battery domestic violence. So I think people should know, well, what is domestic violence actually? Because it could be something as simple as an unwanted touching of a family or household member. That's really, at its core, that's basically all it is, right? At the very basic level. So, unwanted touching, to make it domestic, would be family or household member. So like on your cases too, did you guys ever have a call that you went out to where there was domestic violence when maybe someone didn't want to press charges?
Oh yeah. I think in law, as a law enforcement, I saw it all the time. There would be maybe just a neighbor called because they heard a very loud argument getting out of control. And, like you said, the misconception is a lot of people think, if I don't want to press charges, nothing's going to be done. But because it's domestic, it doesn't go that way. So I would go to situations where the alleged victim saying, it's just an argument and he pushed me but I'm not hurt. I don't want to do anything. It's just, we're just going through some things. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter that she's saying I don't want anything done or he's saying I don't want anything done. We have to push forward and take action. You see it all the time. It can just be as easy as a neighbor calling because they heard a disturbance,
Yeah. And when you say like you don't really have a choice as a law enforcement officer, and why is that?
The problem is that over the years in the state of Florida, there's been several instances, I think, before law enforcement started cracking down and really pursuing having these internal policies Ian talked about with wanting to always make an arrest. Because if you look back on history in Florida, when law enforcement were more relaxed and did not take action because they did have someone saying everything's going to be okay. There's cases that have happened where law enforcement left, trusted that, someone ends up dead. And so because of that, law enforcement said emotions are involved when it comes to domestic situations. There's so many things, so many factors to consider. We can't take this chance anymore. We have to keep, in essence, both parties safe because they're separating them. So you're keeping everyone safe. Is someone coming down with obviously harsher consequences in the end? Yeah, but I think law enforcement's view is, how do we keep everyone safe? How do we diffuse a situation in the
Yeah.
moment?
You explained it beautifully. And the fact is, when law enforcement come, I mean, these two individuals that are quarreling, they clearly have a history. They know each other. As law enforcement, you get out there, you don't know these people. Sometimes you do because you've been out there before, but
Right.
most of the time you don't know these people. You don't know what their history is. If there's domestic violence, like you said, the basis of the reasoning behind the law, someone's got to go. When really it really could be just a first time something happened, they got into an argument. The law enforcement doesn't know that, and they have to they got to do what they got to do, right?
Absolutely.
So, all right. So let's just say someone is arrested for domestic violence. What are the immediate consequences? Like, what are they looking at just immediately? Obviously, they're handcuffed and taken to jail. And then, what are they looking at after
They
that?
can't bond out for starters until they see a judge.
So, yeah,
Here.
I'm glad you touched on that. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so for most offenses, you're allowed to post bond. And that's basically telling the court, hey, I promise I'm going to show up. Here's some money to show I'm serious about showing up in the future. And even though this is a misdemeanor case, this is an exception to that. And the reason is what Danielle was saying, they want to make sure that the alleged victim is protected, well-intentioned, but what it does is it takes people and keeps them in a setting that they're not used to, that they shouldn't be in a jail, and it forces them to see a judge before they can be released. And then that judge is also going to set conditions. One of them every time across the board is no contact. It doesn't matter if the alleged victim shows up and says, I don't care, I want contact. The judge isn't going to give it. Doesn't matter if they have kids. Too bad, you can't see your kids. You guys live together, you're moving out. It doesn't matter, judge doesn't care. Well-intentioned, but these are very serious and very immediate consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree that it's kind of a blanket, quote unquote, good intention, unfortunately. But again, the judges don't know these two people. They don't know their history. They don't know if it's just an isolated incident or if it really does require separation from the family and the kids. Because like Ian just said, when you're looking at it, you're not getting bond immediately. You have to see the judge. You can't bond out before seeing the judge. Usually there's no contact with the victim, always no contact with the victim. Don't return to the home. And if it's a marital home, you can go stay in a hotel, stay with a friend, and now you have the embarrassment of telling your friend what happened or the expense of a hotel. You can't see your kids because the kids are at home. You can't return back to the house. You can't you have to give up all your firearms, ammunition, turn it all into the sheriff's office. I mean, I think a lot of people realize or don't realize that there are collateral consequences and that's before you even have to fight the criminal case.
Yeah.
We still have to go to court. So yeah, Ian, I think you nailed it with all those other cases there. So whether it's a first time offender or not, you're still going to see all those same conditions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's a serious case or it's one of the cases where, oh, he touched me just a little bit, didn't hurt me, I don't want him arrested. The judge doesn't care. You're going to get the same conditions regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder, do you think that people sometimes, because they know it may have been a trivial situation, underestimate the impact that this could have on them, on their future?
100%. I think that domestic violence in general and how the laws work because of the domestic nature of it, people are not aware how tough and how hard the laws and strict the laws are in the state of Florida. And it's not an easy situation to navigate through, especially if you're navigating it without counsel who is, diligently educating you on how the law works. What are the things that can be done to remedy some of these things? Because there are some, even though these conditions come into play, like Ian was saying, as defense counsel, there's things that we can do to kind of mitigate some of that, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think that it takes a really skilled and good, diligent defense attorney to really be able to guide their client through that process because it's not an easy one.
Yeah, well said. I mean, you're handling not just the criminal matter, but those collateral issues that we talked about. Hey, can we do a motion to modify the conditions of release? Can we get you contact with your loved one? You can see your kids. You can go back to your home.
Right.
Those are all extra things that we can do.
That's a big benefit to having an attorney is we're allowed to contact the other party to see if they don't want to prosecute, to see if they are okay with contact. Whereas if you do it, you're going to get arrested.
Right. Yeah. You're back in jail
New charge.
on no bond. Yes, absolutely. And a new charge.
And a new charge.
Yeah. We're the attorneys. I mean, how many times, I mean, how helpful is it? Right? That we can reach out if they are willing to speak to us, which most of the time they are. We'll have a conversation, take their, position in consideration. So yeah, I mean, these are all great tools in our toolbox that we have. So with that, why would it be a good idea to hire an attorney as opposed to trying to like fix it yourself? I think we already talked about.
I think it goes back to what we just said. There's so many things that as defense counsel you could do for your client to help them, navigate through first these collateral things that come with this charge. And then part B is navigating through the criminal case. But I think a lot of people underestimate all the things that can be done on the front end to kind of lighten, things a little bit and make it a little easier for them to be able to live through that criminal case until it's resolved. Absolutely. I've seen so many times where, this no contact order will make a person want to stay in jail because they say, well, if I can't go back to my home, I don't have family here other than this person, don't have friends, losing my job, I'll be homeless. I guess I'm just going to sit here until the case resolves. So it's really important to have defense counsel guide you and tell you, no, we have options. There's things that we can do to try to help you be in a better situation as, this case is going to evolve, because it does take time.
Right. And so those are all the benefits that we can do along the way. Okay. Now, when we get to the the latter portion of the case, if someone ends up taking a plea or is convicted of domestic violence, obviously that's going to have a huge impact on them. For starters, even if you get a withhold of adjudication, you still can't seal it, right? Mm-hmm. So that people think, oh, I got a withhold. I'll just, I'll go ahead and file to have my record sealed so no one will see it. No, it's still public record, right?
Yeah, correct.
So anyone can read that report, and obviously you don't want future employers looking at that.
And future employers care about that offense more than just a simple battery.
Absolutely.
It's just one of those that has that ring to it. People hear the words domestic violence and they say, don't want to hire that guy.
Absolutely. It's got a stigma.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's one thing that I always tell people. I say, okay, you'll see on applications employers are wanting to ask, have you been convicted of a felony? But the other thing they like to ask is domestic violence.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it carries a very strong stigma, like you said, and it can make it difficult moving forward when it comes to employment.
Yeah. So some of the other consequences, you can't have it sealed even with a withhold. You'd essentially have to get it dismissed and then expunged. So now you got a couple other hurdles to look at. There's a batterer's intervention program, which is, I see you roll your eyes. Yeah. It's a mandatory, if you take a plea to that, it's, was it 26 or 29 week program?
26 to 20.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a 7 month.
Months. Almost.
Yeah. 6-7 months.
And almost $1,000. It rated as the program for those classes. It's a weekly class for all those months. Mm-hmm. Ranges, I think, out at like $25 to $30 every week.
Sure.
So, when you do the math, 6-7 months later, you spend anywhere from $700 to $1,000 just on this batterer's intervention program. Right. So there is a cost that comes with it, and
it applies across the board. Right. Anyone with a battered domestic violence has to do the BIP. Even if if it's just a poking or a shove, no injuries, correct, you still have to do it. So that's unless the case is dropped, of course. Also, if you do intentional harm to another person, a lot of people don't realize there's a 10-day jail minimum on that even for a first offense. So you really, it doesn't take, injury doesn't have to be, blood in the streets. It could be literally like a little bruise or cut, some kind of injury. So, all right. So if anyone's worried about a Valentine's Day argument or, something's going to happen, when's the right time to call an attorney?
Let's say immediately. Protect yourself. My advice is always get on top of it on the front end. We can do a lot more from the beginning than when we're late in the game or in the middle of the game. Not that nothing can be done, but I think always being ahead of the ball is always going to be the smartest way to go. Yeah. So the second that you find yourself compromised, call an attorney.
For sure. And before you call an attorney, pardon my language, but shut the fuck up. Don't say anything. You're going to make it worse. Nothing you tell the police is going to make it better. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times as an officer, as an attorney, I see a fight where I know one party started it, but the other party doesn't want them to get in trouble. And so they say, it's like, oh, they never pushed me. I just pushed them back a little bit. Mm-hmm. trying to minimize it, but then they wind up getting themselves in trouble. And then we might talk about stand your ground later. But now that stand your ground is much more difficult because they told the officer something different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So yes, close your mouth. It's not going to help. Don't say anything.
Trying to reason with the officer, or you're thinking that your justification
Yeah.
is a good, it's never going to be.
No.
And it's just the truth. It's never going to be. And I think domestic violence, especially, do not talk. I mean, don't talk ever, but don't talk, because there is no reasoning in situations like this.
Sure.
You could feel like, oh, I'm going to tell my side of the story. That's going to show cooperation. You know, it's going to build rapport with the officer. It does not. It does not. Every single word you're telling, it's going to be used against you.
Yeah.
Weaponized against you.
Every time.
Don't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close it. Don't say it.
No, you're so right. The last domestic violence trial I had was a gentleman I was representing who had told the police too, because he didn't want his wife to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So he said, "Oh yeah, it was nothing," and I just, she was acting kind of nuts. I just kind of grabbed her and put her down on the stairs, and he ends up getting arrested, even though it turns out she was attacking him, and he has going to jail, has to hire a private attorney. I think lost his job over it, and it did make the stand your ground harder. We had to take it all the way to trial, and we did win on a self-defense argument. So luckily the jury believed him. But man, who wants to take that risk to go through all that? And he's just trying to protect her, who then, took the kids and ran off. So it's just sad all around sometimes. We can beat the case at trial, but why even go through all that? So sometimes, like I said, just don't say anything. Just, and if the police they're gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. And there's a preference to arrest the primary aggressor. And if you make it sound like that's you, then guess who they're gonna arrest, right? So, okay. So with that, always an interesting topic, but it's something that I think we have to address because, like I said, it's the number 2 offense that we represent people on. And so clearly it's happening out there. So you just, you have to talk about it. At least this way people are informed. They know what to do. If they have any questions, they can drop a comment below. If there's anything you guys want to hear, let me know. Follow us on all our socials, Gans_Law. And until the next time, it is bad just to briefcases. See you on the next one.